Story 1.
Would I be the asshole for walking around my house in my underwear? Roommate keeps setting the temperature up to 76 degrees. I start overheating at 68. We've been arguing about this for months with no resolution. We just keep switching it back and forth whenever the other isn't looking. We don't pay for AC heating, so cost isn't an issue. And even if it was, it's been in the low 40s/50s outside, so keeping it cooler isn't costing anything. I'm getting sick of it. I can feel when she sets the heat back up, multiple times a day, because I start sweating through my shirt. I don't want to deal with this. I realize that I run pretty cold, and I might be a little sensitive to heat. I like it closer to 63, but I'm willing to compromise to 67 or 68. I feel sick when I walk in and it's above 70, especially because I have to dress warm to go outside. I'm super frustrated and I don't want to deal with fighting over this or arguing. I'm very strongly considering giving up and letting her set the temperature to whatever she wants and just stripping down to my underwear when I get too hot. I know this will make her uncomfortable, but I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to do if she keeps cranking the heat up.
I think she is not an asshole. What do you guys think? Comment below.
Story 2.
Am I the asshole for leaving the dinner table? I was having dinner with my parents at a restaurant and we were enjoying our meal. Conversation followed the meal when my father asks me to take off my jacket so he can see my chest. I'm a dude. I was uncomfortable with the request at the time, so I declined. There were other people around too. Whatever the reason, I said no. He kept going at it, trying to get me to take it off when I would repeatedly say no, maybe 3 times. At that point, he started getting a little angry and I don't remember what he was saying, but I remember pleading, "Please stop," and "I don't want to fight." It didn't work as he was totally in the mode to fight for some reason. I asserted that I'm allowed to say no and that he should just drop it. Then, I forgot what he said, but he said something in a way that there was no turning back. Like, "Drop what?" Which just totally conveyed the fact that he was acting on rage and ready to fight at a restaurant. Faced with this ridiculous situation, I muttered that I needed to go and left. I'm proud of myself for that. If I was younger, I definitely would have fought there. When I saw them again, somehow my father talked my mother into saying that I ruined dinner. That me walking away was the ultimate wrong. I countered by saying that my father is the one who gave me no choice but to leave. I saw 2 options: fight or leave, and I wasn't going to fight at a restaurant. My father blames me and says that I ruined dinner and that I could have stayed and ignored him or suggested wrapping up dinner due to the sour mood, but that sounds like a load of BS victim blaming to me. If he wanted to enjoy dinner, he could have just taken no for an answer.
I think he is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 3.
Aita, for telling my brother his new girlfriend is no longer welcome to family events. My brother's new girlfriend Avery, 19TF, lived with her ex for 2 months before being kicked out and ended up back at her parents' house. She had known my brother Josh, 19TM, for a few years apparently, and he moved out of our parents' house to rent them an apartment together. Not only did he drive to another state to get her, but it's been over 2 months and she still doesn't have a job to help with any bills. My issue isn't really her not having a job though, it's the things she's said and done over time. Mind you, this is the very first relationship he's ever been in, and the first girl he's ever brought around the family in general. I, 25NM, have gotten to know her over time, and she's been getting on my nerves, but I wanted to post here to get opinions on if it's just me or not. It's been over 2 months of them living together, and she still hasn't applied to any jobs. I'm able to overlook that since it's not my place to say anything. However, she's also made a nasty comment about our cousin wearing a bikini, refuses to speak or even acknowledge our parents, and even lied to my brother about having no contact with her parents. When if you look on social media, my brother has no social media, that's an obvious lie, and they do in fact keep in touch and have a good online relationship. The final straw for me was when I texted him and didn't get a response, so I called him just for him to say, "Wait, why isn't your number saved?" And I heard her laughing in the background. I have had the same number for years, and we were texting days before this, so it gave me a funny feeling. I texted him yesterday asking him to not bring her to Thanksgiving dinner if she's going to refuse to speak to my parents, who have been nothing but welcoming, and also that she is not welcome over to my house anymore. Aita? Eat it slash jobs. I should have made it clear to begin with, but with reading some comments, yes, my parents are aware of my thoughts and feelings about it and don't want her ignoring them. My dad is neutral and wants him to learn on his own. And mom doesn't really favor her much, but doesn't want him to cut her off for speaking up. So I was asked to talk to Josh about it, and I have. But since it was brought up, nothing's been said from him about the situation, and no, he has not acknowledged it. It makes family gatherings awkward if one person isn't going to acknowledge everyone else, and my mom calls me upset about it often, leaving me with no direction on what to do besides asking him to not bring her around if she's going to be rude and a walking red flag.
I think he is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 4. Am I the asshole for not letting my friend stay with me? Backstory. My friend, 27F, and I have been best friends for over 10 years. I love her, but her life has been one issue after the other for the last 7 years. It started with a bad home life. Her parents were constantly fighting, drinking, and abusing her. From there, she's been in multiple toxic relationships with different boyfriends who she's lived with to avoid going home to her parents. I've been encouraging her for years to get her own place so she can have her own safe haven and not have to worry about being kicked out or abused by anyone. But she's never been ambitious about the idea and has only ever lived at her parents' house or the abusive boyfriend's places. I've been a major support in her life during all these years. Endless hours of talking, venting, and advice giving. I always try to uplift her spirits and remind her that she can do better for herself, given her a place to do her laundry, shower, etc. I've also been trying to connect her with my friend who's looking to get out of her lease in the hopes that she'll take it over. Currently, she is living out of a garage with her current fiancé. They've been together for about 6 months, but they got engaged after being together for 3 weeks. This gave me bad vibes from the very beginning, obviously, plus I hadn't even met the guy at that point. Come to find out that they have been doing drugs constantly together since the beginning. They were living together at the mom's house, but about 2 months ago, my friend officially cut her mom off and therefore had nowhere to live other than with her fiancé in his garage. She told me they recently decided to stop doing drugs, which is great, but I guess the honeymoon phase has ended because he does not want to be with her anymore and is treating her very poorly and showing early signs of becoming another toxic, abusive idiot. She's been sleeping in her car for the past few days, and recently we spoke about her living situation. I moved into my first house with my fiancé about a year ago. We are lucky enough to have a spare room and a decent-sized home. But because of this extra space, she is wanting to live with me and doesn't understand why I haven't offered this as an option. Also, she does have a job and her own income, so she would be capable of at least renting a room somewhere. First off, my fiancé does not want her to live in our house, which is totally understandable. Going against his wishes would be putting a huge wedge into our relationship. Second, she has no solid plan or timeline of getting on her own 2 feet, and once she's here, I feel like it would be impossible to have to kick her out again. 3, she's my best friend, but I've never wanted to live with her. I know I would grow to resent her as constantly giving advice and listening to her vent can be very draining for me, especially if it were to be on a daily basis. And lastly, I'm hoping this will light a fire under her ass to finally start making moves for herself and get her own apartment or room to rent. I'm just worried about her and concerned that she's going to stay with this abusive guy instead if he allows it because it's the easier choice. I think she is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 4.
Am I the asshole for making family wait to visit newborn? My wife and I, 35-meter, just had our first baby. My brother, 40-ohm, didn't ask but told me he was going to come and stay with me for a week to visit his new niece. He's an overall huge inconvenience, but I try to keep it together for the sake of family. My thoughts were, I'm having a baby and you want to stay at my house for a week after I come back from the hospital? I told my brother I couldn't accommodate him and I wouldn't be ready for visitors. He objected, saying he wants to see his niece as she will be growing fast. I told him how about he visit during Christmas. This way we would be adjusted to parenting and also to allow baby's immune system to be stronger as it would be cold and flu season. He didn't really and had family guilt trip me. My mom and my dad were both calling me asking why I wasn't allowing brother to visit his niece. Fast forward, we are at the hospital and I find out my brother flew in anyways and is staying with a friend. My parents continue to force me to allow him to see the baby. I explained it's not my fault he came anyways, but I told him in advance we weren't planning to have any visitors, let alone someone who is coming from airport to airport visiting my newborn. My parents were both upset at me. This affected the visits from my parents as well as the topic obviously came up and they weren't happy. It escalated after an unfortunate turn where my wife is admitted to the ER post-pregnancy. We were there for about 5 hours until they told us my wife would have to stay overnight. I updated my parents and let them know I'll be coming home and will have to come back to see her tomorrow. Before I left, I checked the security cameras to see how baby was doing. The moment I tuned in, my mom and dad were talking about a plan to have my brother hide somewhere nearby. Then once I would leave to visit my wife the next day, that they would have my brother come over so he could also see the baby. I was shocked, lol. I started shaking. They were not concerned for me and my wife. They saw this as an opportunity to go behind my back. The only visitors we allowed as parents were our own parents, who are all local. I don't feel like my wishes were unreasonable, but they were made out to be. TLDR, had a newborn and brother wanted to crash for a week to visit. Told him it wasn't convenient and asked he come 2 months later. He came anyways and started a guilt trip which led up to a plan to sneak into my house while I was gone to visit. LOL.
I think he is not an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Story 5.
Am I the asshole for cheating on my wife? I met my wife Lexi at university, living in the same halls. We became best friends and she stuck by me when I accidentally knocked up another roommate who eventually went on to have my first son, Asher. Eventually, Lexi and I got together, moved in, got engaged, had a beautiful wedding, and had 2 kids together. Our youngest, Elias, is the only one still at home. Lately, things have felt a bit stale. IDK, just like life is taking over, and there's never any time for romance or passion anymore. I couldn't remember the last time we woohooed. She's so busy with her horse Phoenix, and I'm working dawn till dusk as a conservationist, then taking care of the ranch when I'm home from work. It's a nice life, but a bit dull. I met this young adult woman at work called Leilani. At first it was just chatting on a friendly level, but a few weeks ago we ran into her at the bowling alley when I was out for a family night with my wife and son, and I found myself flirting with her autonomously in front of my wife. Thank goodness she didn't seem to notice. She's jealous, high maintenance, and has always had an innate fear of being cheated on, and until now I haven't ever so much as flirted with another woman. This flirt made me realize the depth of my connection with Leilani. To want to risk it all flirting with her in front of my family must mean my feelings are pretty clear, right? Later that night, when Lexi and Elias were home asleep, I snuck out to meet Leilani by the waterfall. I confessed my feelings to her, and things got hot and heavy fast. We ended up woohooing in the waterfall. I felt guilty, but maybe it would spice up my marriage? What Lexi doesn't know can't hurt her, right? The next evening, we met up at the Gnome's Arms. Just as we stepped into a bush to woohoo again, Lexi appeared. I thought she was safely at home, but for some reason she showed up. Maybe she had suspicions, IDK. It was too late to stop myself following through with the woohoo, and poor Lexi had to stand and watch it all. To say she was enraged is an understatement. She slapped me as soon as I emerged, and just seeing her heartbreak broke mine too. I instantly regretted it all, but yet, for some reason, I felt negatively towards Lexi as well. I felt a grudge towards her for catching us. Neither of us wanted to divorce right off the bat, so we quickly arranged a babysitter and made plans to go on a weekend away to hash things out away from Elias. We rented a little cabin in Mount Komorebi so we could go on hikes and walks and jogs together. By this point, Lexi told me she was in a full-blown midlife crisis and just didn't know what she wanted anymore. Truthfully, I'm afraid of a retaliatory affair, but I know it's what I deserve. Lexi and I were playing Party Frenzy together as an activity that could enable us to be in the same room without yelling and shoving each other when she put the controller down, walked a few meters away, and started gasping and clutching her chest. She was having a heart attack. I went into absolute panic mode as I watched the love of my life, the mother of my children, my wife, curl up and die right in front of my eyes. The Grim Reaper appeared, and just when I thought all hope was lost, I realized that I had something to offer him. A death flower. I summoned up all my courage, approached him, and handed over the flower. A few seconds later, I looked over and saw Lexi resurrect. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. She literally lifted up off the floor in a halo of light. I'm just glad the kids weren't around to witness their mother's death. Since Lexi's heart attack, there have been some changes. I vowed to never ever cheat again. I'm no longer in touch with Leilani, though I see her at work. Lexi has done a lot of work trying to move past the infidelity, as she believes what we have is worth fighting for. She's always on the yoga mat these days, as she's terrified some other thing will happen someday and the rage will push her into a second heart attack. My AITA is, Lexi wants me to quit my job and find another so I don't have to see Leilani around anymore. I really don't want to. I love my job and really enjoy enacting global policies that make the world a better place. Plus, if I was gonna cheat again, I'd find a way, and I won't. I know I won't, but Lexi doesn't. And I can't blame her for being wary, but it seems madness to quit my entire livelihood and start afresh. Lexi's argument is that we don't need the money, and she's right, but I get so much more from work than just the income. I don't want to quit, though if I have to save my marriage, I guess I'll have to. Am I the a-hole for wanting to keep my job?
I think he is an asshole. What do you people think? Comment below. Subscribe for more interesting stories.